So let's talk about Bitcoin. Yes, that thing your weird cousin won't shut up about at Thanksgiving. It's the digital equivalent of that one friend who is either going to become a billionaire or end up living in a van down by the river, with absolutely no in-between. At its core, Bitcoin is digital money. It's a currency that exists only on computers. You can't hold it, you can't fold it, and you certainly can't use it to bribe a parking attendant, unless that attendant is a very, very specific kind of nerd. It was created back in 2009 by a mysterious person, or group of people, known only as Satoshi Nakamoto. And yes, that name sounds like it was randomly generated by a video game, which is honestly quite fitting. The whole point of Bitcoin was to create a form of money that no single person, bank, or government could control. The US dollar is controlled by the Federal Reserve, the euro, by the European Central Bank. My personal finances are controlled by my crippling addiction to buying antique maps of places that no longer exist. Bitcoin, however, operates on a technology called the blockchain. Now, blockchain is one of those words that people throw around to sound smart, like synergy or paradigm shift. It's basically a giant public digital ledger, a massive shared spreadsheet that records every single Bitcoin transaction ever made. It's transparent, it's decentralized, and it's more complicated than assembling IKEA furniture in the dark. In the beginning, there was Bitcoin, and almost nobody cared. Seriously. When Satoshi Nakamoto first published the white paper for Bitcoin in late 2008, the world collectively shrugged. The global financial system was actively imploding, and here comes some anonymous internet phantom with a proposal for magic computer money. It sounded less like a revolutionary financial instrument and more like the plot of a terrible sci-fi movie starring Nicolas Cage. The early adopters were a very niche group: cryptographers, cyberpunks, people who probably had very strong opinions about the ending of the Matrix. They were the only ones who saw the potential. To everyone else, and I mean everyone, it screamed "scam" in giant, flashing neon letters. And you can't blame them. Think about the sales pitch. Hello, I'd like you to trade your real government-backed money for a digital token that has no physical form, no intrinsic value, and was invented by someone who might not even exist. That's not a sales pitch. That's something a cartoon villain would say right before dropping a hero into a shark tank. The media, when it bothered to notice at all, treated it as a joke. It was called a Ponzi scheme, a bubble, a tool for criminals. Every great story has a turning point, a moment where things get real. For Bitcoin, that moment involved pizza. Yes, pizza. On May 22, 2010, a programmer named Laszlo Hanyecz made history by completing the first ever real-world transaction with Bitcoin. He paid 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 Papa John's pizzas. At the time, that was worth about $41. Today, as of September 2025, those 10,000 Bitcoins are worth, well, let's just say enough to buy the entire Papa John's franchise and probably the state of Kentucky where it's headquartered. This transaction, now celebrated as Bitcoin Pizza Day, was proof that Bitcoin could, in fact, be used to buy actual stuff, stupidly expensive stuff in hindsight. After the pizza incident, Bitcoin started to slowly crawl out of the primordial digital ooze. Its value, which had been fractions of a cent, began to climb. In early 2011, it hit a major milestone. 1 Bitcoin became worth $1. This was huge. It was parity. It was like the weird kid in school suddenly being able to do one single push-up. People started to notice. Then, in 2013, the first major price explosion happened. But what goes up, especially in the world of unregulated digital assets, must come crashing down. It was its first, but certainly not its last, wild ride on the world's most terrifying roller coaster. Just when Bitcoin was trying to convince the world it wasn't a complete disaster, the disasters started rolling in. The biggest and most infamous of these was the collapse of Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox, it sounds like a villain's lair. It was the world's largest Bitcoin exchange, handling over 70% of transactions at its peak. Then in early 2014, it suddenly shut down. It announced it had been hacked. It had lost, get this, 850,000 Bitcoins. At the time, worth nearly $500 million. The Mt. Gox implosion was a cataclysm, the Lehman Brothers moment for crypto. People lost their life savings overnight. Trust was completely shattered. This wasn't isolated. Other exchanges got hacked. Bitfinex, Binance, thieves made off with hundreds of millions. Storing Bitcoin on exchanges felt like a shoebox labeled "free money inside." Governments got nervous. They started making rules. China, once a mining hub, waged a confusing war on crypto. Banned financial institutions, banned exchanges, banned mining, unbanned, then banned again. Other countries followed with warnings, regulations, bans. Every few months a headline screamed the end of Bitcoin. Mt. Gox collapses, Bitcoin is dead. China bans Bitcoin, Bitcoin is dead. Another exchange hacked, Bitcoin is really dead this time, we swear. But Bitcoin didn't. It would crash, burn, be left for dead, and then slowly get back up, ready for the next round. So after years of being called a scam, getting hacked, being banned, and crashing more times than a drunk pigeon, something strange started to happen. The narrative began to shift. The people who once laughed at Bitcoin were starting to take it seriously. This change didn't happen overnight, it was a slow, grudging process like convincing a cat to enjoy a bath. A big part of this was simply Bitcoin's stubborn refusal to die. Every time it was declared dead, it came back stronger. Its price reached new, more absurd highs. The 2017 bull run, price screamed towards $20,000, brought in a massive new wave of public and institutional attention. Big banks like JP Morgan started publishing glowing reports and offering crypto services to their wealthy clients. The hypocrisy was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Suddenly, the language changed. Bitcoin wasn't magic internet money anymore, it was an uncorrelated asset class. It wasn't a tool for criminals, it was a hedge against inflation. Then came the corporate giants and the billionaires. Companies like Tesla, MicroStrategy started buying billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin to hold on their balance sheets. Esteemed hedge fund managers, the titans of finance, began publicly endorsing it. The launch of Bitcoin ETFs was the final seal of approval, allowing regular people to invest in Bitcoin through their normal brokerage accounts as easily as buying a stock.